Welcome, everyone, to Ladder Daily Digest and Korihor.org and Randy C. Watts' Momo Nomo. We are here.
It's good to see you again.
Likewise, Randy. Good to see you.
Yesterday was a tragic event that happened, and it caused the postponement of Mormonism Live. And I totally forgot that the show must go on for Joe. But later on, and it could have been even this morning, I looked and I saw who Joe's guest was, and I was amazed, and I was incredibly moved by the things that his guest had to say. And so, Joe, tell us about what your show was and how you got your guest.
Yeah, thanks for this, Gene and Randy. Thanks for having me back. And I mean, it came together the last minute, but I got the very man himself, Kyle Butler, on my show, which is Hellfire Agency. We have a series called Church for Atheists. After all, the Church of Korihor is a church for atheists. And I mean, it was inconvenient that just mere hours before, inconvenient and tragic that just a few hours before, I'm just going to take my headphones off because I'm getting an echo, that unfortunately we saw that Charlie Kirk didn't make it and was assaulted and was, I don't know the official YouTube friendly language, but was killed yesterday here in Utah County. And but we had been talking about it for about 24 hours, and I decided, you know what, there's nothing that's going to be made better by our not continuing with this conversation when we have it scheduled. So I said, you know what, we'll make a comment on it at some point, and just how tragic political violence is. And it really is. Political violence is a tragedy. It's a tragedy because of not only the loss of human life, but also because of the stupidity of it. At the end of the day, we all now live in a world where it's once again reaffirmed to us, as it has been at multiple points, that we live in a world where you could lose your life for saying the wrong thing. And that's always making the conversation worse and making it more difficult. And so I may have on occasion made light of the situation because I sometimes miss social cues. You've heard of me and my autism, but at the end of the day, I've been pretty firm, I think, on this stance. Political violence is wrong, and it doesn't get anything done. I don't think anybody is under the misconception right now. Hopefully none of us are under the misconception that somebody goes, wow, you saw what they did to Charlie Kirk, I guess I better change my opinion about things. No, people who had polarized opinions are now dug in deeper on their side of those political opinions. So it doesn't help. So that's where we were when we said, you know what, though, there are other things happening. And so the reason why I had contacted Kyle, who is known as Kyle_talks on TikTok, is this guy is really blowing and going on TikTok, talking about how he is a former pastor, and having left Christianity, he is actually better off, and how deconstructing Christianity has been good for him and for serving other people. And he's basically on a higher calling now as an atheist, outside of the church and calling out the Christian church. And so it was a really good conversation. After one quick conversation on the phone, I said, more people, this guy is doing what we're doing, just from a slightly different angle, from this Pentecostal charismatic Christian angle, and deconstructing from there. So I was really pleased that when I talked to him, I just sent him a message on TikTok and said, I would love it if you would be on our show and talk to us. And I thought it's a great opportunity to pass the mic to a Black man on this subject, because there's a lot inside the Black Christian community that we need them to be able to tell their version of and tell it in their own voice.
Joe, I thought something interesting that he said was that he is not trying to convince anyone that there's no God. He's not trying to recruit people into atheism. He's simply trying to help those who have become atheists deconstruct from their former beliefs, which is a lot like what all of us are doing.
That's right. I know it is for me. So yeah, no, that's absolutely right. That was a good conversation for that reason, I think.
Yeah, so we want people to go and see the whole interview, but and so in the bottom, in the links to my description, I have the link to Joe's interview. And if you know Joe and his Church of Korihor YouTube channel, then you can just go there on your own. But what we're going to do is we're going to play a few clips and we're going to talk about it. And then we're going to encourage everybody to go to Joe's channel and watch the whole interview.
And Gene, before you do, I just want to say that we don't have just run-of-the-mill guests. Obviously, we have guests that add a lot of value to the subject at hand, and Joe is one of them, and we have many coming up. And for those of you who are watching this, we would love it if you please like it. If you like the show, if you don't like the show, like it anyway. What the hell, right? But then share it too, because there's a lot of people that will gain a lot of information from watching this. And we would greatly appreciate it. And we appreciate you listening, by the way.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to add it to the stage. There we go. And I'm going to probably go full screen. We don't have to be on it necessarily. And we'll play it.
I remember I used to go to church, and I'd be in the church service, and I would feel so odd, like I don't belong here, you know. And I thought I had a demon on me, you know, because I thought, how can I feel so disconnected? People are running and shouting and praising, and they're doing church, and everyone looks happy and excited, and I'm over here like, something's just not right.
Right.
Something's just not right. So I thought I had a demon. I thought I was oppressed with a devil, and I was terrified because we were big into the deliverance ministry as well. And I thought any moment the pastor was going to say, "Okay, brother Kyle, I'm tired of this devil messing with you. Come on up here. We're gonna get this demon off of you." I was terrified. I would go to church like just knowing any moment he's going to call my name out and embarrass me in front of the whole congregation.
That's definitely a unique experience. I can say I had a lot of weird and bad experiences in Mormonism, but I never was worried they're going to call me out in front of the congregation. Like, we gotta get a demon out of Brother Rolf.
Yeah, something's not right with that brother over there. But
now,
in retrospect, looking, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh,
yeah,
I was just going to ask you: Did you ever cast demons out of people when you were a pastor?
I tried once. Didn't work. So.
Me too. When I was a missionary in Peru, I tried once, and my companion later asked me, he's like, "Do you think that worked?" I'm like, "No."
That's sad but true story. The person I tried to do that on was, and I still get very emotional when I think about it. It's my autistic nephew. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
It was a great conversation. Let me tell you, that moment I had no anticipation that he was going, that was even a story he had to tell. I was just, I was inspired by that, opportunity to talk about myself, because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get to tell my exorcism story for my mission, but talk about the Korihor argument. And when he told me that, I was like, oh, screw my story. Let's hear this one. And because as you guys know, I am a person who is on the autism spectrum. I have 3 children on the autism spectrum. We have a whole ministry practically dedicated at the Church of Korihor to helping people who are neurodivergent. And for that reason, a lot of neurodivergent people, autistic people, people with ADHD, people with CPTSD, people with obsessive compulsive disorder, all of that now falls under this neurodivergent umbrella. And a lot of us are very literal thinkers. We miss a lot of social cues. We don't fit the mold of religions that for the large part really are made for neurotypical people, like most things in the world. And so for a lot of people who are neurodivergent, and the way we behave, some of us, especially those like me, it's almost like people assume that we can't have or shouldn't have spiritual experiences just on the basis of the fact that we're such literal thinkers, can't suspend and let let the, oh, use a nice word, let the narrative be the narrative, right? I'm prone to say, let the myth be the myth, let the mythology play out like it is, just go with the flow. And but autistic people and other people, they need spirituality too. We need spirituality too, but we just tend to shy away from the word because the way that churches have used it has been so abusive to it, especially when you look back into documents in history of what the way people talk about spirituality before it got so polarized with the Christian ethos, the modern Christian narrative. People didn't think of spirituality as exclusively church stuff. They didn't think of it as exclusively God stuff. Spirituality was about change. Spirituality was about finding joy and purpose in life. And, if we could have gotten back to that, I think a lot more people, if church could have been more about that, I think a lot more neurodivergent people wouldn't feel so unwelcome in church. But like Kyle Butler points out here, in his church, under his ministry, it was, you've got a demon in you. That's what autism is and has been inside the Christian world. You're obviously possessed by the devil. And you could tell there was a lot of pain in that. I don't know. I'm sure you guys could see and hear it. This was a hard and painful experience for him. And I said, this is a moment for me to shut up and let him tell this story. And I was glad that he did. I thought we all needed to hear it.
He was very emotional. And I could tell that still weighs heavy on his mind. I'd like to ask a question. I'm just curious. Do you believe that there's a devil, Joe?
I don't.
Okay. And I wonder if he does, because he tried to exorcise the devil out. But then that begs the question, well, if you believe that there's a devil, then do you believe in the opposing side that there's a God?
And vice versa. And back then he did. Back then he did. Right.
When he was a pastor. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Right. But it seemed to me from his story, I hate to tell his story for him, but my impression coming away from this conversation was that was a big part of the moment where he started to stop believing in both. Is to realize, when these things are, like autism, are blamed on the devil, it becomes clear in the mind that we're dealing with a previous generation's lack of understanding of something we are only barely beginning to understand scientifically, and trying to explain it away with mythology. Sorry, but using this fable oriented legend terminology, using words, God words, to try to explain something that you don't understand the science of, which is the way it probably has been from the beginning. What is lightning? God is angry. What is rain? God is good. If the rain feeds the crops, God loves us. If the rain washes the crops away, he did something to piss him off. And so it seemed to me like that was a big part. That moment does seem to have been a big part of the deconstruction for him. Is not only that it didn't work, obviously, he didn't get the devil, quote unquote, out of his nephew, but then he had to endure confrontation with his sister, who, when he realized that she, he was going to have to inform her that he tried to cast the devil out of her child. And autism, if you have a child with autism, life is really hard. And it's hard on them that it's hard on you, because well, sometimes people, I joked in one of my sermons once, there's a comedy duo, fourth highest rated folk comedy duo from New Zealand, known as Flight of the Conchords, and
Love it.
they have that song called "Hurt Feelings." It starts out and says, people say that rappers don't have feelings. We have feelings. People say we're not rappers. We're rappers. That hurts our feelings when you say we're not rappers. And I say, for autistic people, that's kind of what it is. People say that autistic people don't have feelings. We have feelings. Some people say that we don't have autism. We have autism.
It makes you wonder how many people have been subject to being told that they're possessed, that the devil's inside of them, instead of recognizing that it's a psychological issue. It's a mental illness that they have. And it's heartbreaking to think what they went through and what they were told in the name of God rather than in the name of science.
And both ways too, because I've talked a little bit about this before in my sermons. I put off reading William James' book on the varieties of religious experience for a long time, because toxic atheist. When I finally started to heal some of that toxicity, and I read this book because it was highly recommended to me, he said something really interesting. He said, look, most of the miraculous experiences of the saints, including from St. Paul especially down, can be explained away with psychosis. It can be explained away. People have said that St. Paul was dehydrated. People have said that he had seizures. And hallucinations are such an alarmingly common thing in the human brain that
you could have had a Twinkie. There's a Twinkie defense.
Oh, yeah.
What?
The guy that killed the mayor of San Francisco said that he went crazy because he ate a Twinkie, and so that's what happens when you eat a Twinkie and you're not careful.
Okay.
Well, the subject of the next show.
I guess because they didn't have Ambien back then.
That's right.
Sorry, Randy. Go ahead.
No,
Are you
I was
ready
just
for
saying
comments?
there's the subject of our next show right there, is how many Twinkies have caused a great deal of harm.
So, Randy, you have to go to your shared tab here and make sure the sound is good. And
Yep.
And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Hellfire Agency, also known as a mission of the Church of Korihor. It's Wednesday service. I'm so happy to introduce my guest today, Kyle Butler. How are you?
Hey, everyone. I'm doing good. How are you?
Cool. Kyle Butler.
Randy, you want to go to your timestamp?
I was at my timestamp.
It reloaded, obviously.
Yep, it sure did. Yay. I'm like, what are we doing just starting here? Here we
14 minute.
So that is me showing some grace to those that are still there by taking the ownership of it from a first person perspective. Because at the time I didn't think they were stupid, obviously. But I look back on it and I can talk about me that way and throw the shade on myself while still bringing the topic to the surface to give people who want to something to think about.
That makes no sense. I mean, is that a lot of this? I'm interested in knowing what's different about your experience from mine. I'll say that is so familiar to a lot of ex-Mormons, because we even have T-shirts and coffee mugs that people sell that say, "I'm sorry for the shit I said when I was Mormon." And it's and people, when they're new to leaving the church, they say it all the time. Listen, I'm just going to break the ice with you. I'm sorry for all that shit I said when I was Mormon. I don't know. I had the best of intentions at the time.
Yeah.
So I think every one of us in the ex-Mormon atmosphere can certainly relate to this. I cringe at thinking about some of the things I said when I was a true believing Mormon that I could just go back and kick my own ass for saying, especially when I'm explaining to the black folks that, you know, that would ask me, because I sure as heck didn't bring it up. Well, they asked, not just the black folks, but anyone we were teaching, why did you guys not allow blacks into the, you know, into your temples? And I had to give them that song and dance about, you know, being cursed with the mark of Cain, which I get a stomach ache just thinking about the fact that I actually uttered those words.
Oof. I can't imagine doing that back in that time period, especially in Spain, where, you know, there's a lot of history of persecution, you know, Moorish people, especially, you know, and people from Africa there. So I feel you on that one, Randy.
Yeah.
I feel you. You know, it's it's interesting to me. It really is a Twinkie defense, you know, that I have. I thought, oh, it's been years since I've had to do anything like that. But no, now that I'm thinking about it that way, there are a lot of things that I wind up saying, you know, well, you got to understand, back in those days, I was Mormon, and I still do it 24 years on. You know, people think of me now as a grandpa Exmo, which is a little disturbing, but it is true. It's been over 2 decades since I was Mormon. That's not true of most people I meet in the space.
Well, I have ordered the shirt, by the way, that says, "I'm sorry for the things I said when I was a Mormon."
Cool.
So
we're gonna be listing some T-shirts at Korihor.org that say Korihor was right. We have another one that says Korihor died for you. We have a muscle shirt I was telling Kyle about because he works out. I said, you look like you work out. I'm going to get you one of our tank tops that says sweating like a whore in church. He really liked that. I'm definitely going to get him one of those.
Nice.
Nice.
Gene, did you have any clips that you wanted to show, or do you want me to go to my next one?
So what's the timestamp on your next one?
The next one that I have is 1554 to 1720.
Okay, go ahead and play that. And then, Joe, if you had another timestamp, you could look that up while we're playing this.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay.
What I think one of the sexiest things is hearing a woman talk about deconstructing. I think that is badass sexy. I just do. I mean, no offense to anyone listening that's doing it. I don't mean that in a perverted kind of way. I mean that in a you're the shit. That is some cool ass shit, because for a woman to stand against patriarchy, to stand up in her own intelligence, because remember, women are the major percentage of women in religions. So nearly every church you go to, you'll see more women than men, no matter what the type of religion or church or denomination. And that's just how it is. So, and I'm not saying that women are in that way because they don't think, or because they're incapable and because they're weak. That is not it at all. I don't know why. I know that in the church I grew up with, it was predominantly women trying to drag their husbands in, but mostly women. So to see a woman who was in it deep and now out of it, and being able to articulate it and talk about it and stand in front of people and say, yeah, well, yeah. I think that is just badass sexy. I just do. I mean, I just do. And I love to hear women talk about it. And I try to follow every time I see one,
I love that. I love that he said that, because that is such a problem with the patriarchal pricks we have in the ex-Mormon, world. Yeah. And when a woman comes forth, like he said, and starts deconstructing, because she's thinking, she's smarter than the priesthood holders that are ruling over the women in the church in their mind. That is that is pretty freaking sexy that these women say that, you know what, I've had enough. I've had enough. I'm better than that. You know, like the Saturday night thing. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And doggone it, people like me.
People like me. Yeah, that's right. And, you know, that was in response to, I'd asked him, I said, I've noticed this, and I addressed it with one of my guests from a few months ago, Mandisa Thomas of Black Non-Believers, Inc. And she is, you know, she gets a lot of flack inside the Black community, among other Black people, who point out to her and they're like, you're fighting against us. This is internalized racism. And she's like, there's nothing internalized racist about, you know, not wanting to defend a God who was used, by the way, to defend and uphold slavery, who was used to defend and uphold Jim Crow, that was, you know, and to teach Black people that they should accept sharecropping rules as they were, you know, and wage slavery, you know. And she, you know, but she fights with it all the time. And I said, do you find that's a thing inside the Black community, Black Christian space? And he basically said no to about himself. He said, in my experience, it's not, no, you know, I don't really get called out on that. But that's when he pointed out and he said, if I were to guess, it's because she's a woman. And I was like, okay, you know, I figured there was some element of that, but I didn't realize how, you know, how strong it was in his mind. He's like, the fact that she is a woman is really the reason why Black men probably are calling her out. And that does seem consistent with what I've seen with other Black atheist women and Black ex-Christian women on TikTok. There's one particular, I wish I could remember her name off the top of my head. I feel bad about that. But who recently, you know, I had learned something interesting just this week. She had responded to a comment on one of her TikToks of a Black man basically doing that very thing, accusing her of fighting against Black people, and because she was opposed to God, and she had an extra layer of protection, it seemed to me, for this commenter because he was a Black man, and because he had said, you are disrespecting me as a Christian or a member of the community or something. I don't remember the exact words. And she said, you're right. I don't respect you for being a Christian. She said, I do want to pay you respect for being a Black man because we need that in our community, which is interesting. Because if you, those of us who are not Black, you know, I'm just saying this as an observer from the outside, you can see that there is an effort among especially Black women, because they see how Black men are mistreated in our society, to say we have to stick together with Black men and stand up for them, to say, give them the space to speak their mind and say their piece and so forth. So it's like, you know, here you have this instance, we have this Black woman who feels like she needs to stand up to show respect for a Black man who is accusing her of disrespecting him. So she's like, I'll come forward to say, I am showing you respect. I want to show you respect. But just so we're clear, it's not because you're Christian. It's because you're a Black man. And I'm tired of people treating you badly. So it's like, that is, and for me, and talking with Kyle about that, being a Black man who's never been a Black woman in his life and knows that, like, right away, without even thinking about it, he knows it. He sees it. And I go, oh my gosh, this is complicated for Black women. You know, it's yet another reason why a Black woman who is an atheist, you know, already as it is, we've talked about this on my show and at the Church of Korihor, a lot of women who are atheists or agnostic feel like they're not allowed to say so, or feel like it's dangerous to say so. And I, you know, when I asked, I did kind of an informal survey years ago, because this was a big thing in the atheist community. Why is it really that we have more men with neck beards than we have women who are part of the atheist community? Does it make sense? And I got a lot of messages privately. I posted on Facebook. Some women would comment in the comments, but some women would only answer it in the messages. And they would say, If I told anybody that I don't believe in God, I worry about what it would mean for my prospects for dating. I worry about what it would do to my job. I worry about what it would do in my family relationships. I didn't, and it was like, I'm like sitting here going, oh my gosh, as men, we really do have this privilege that precisely because we don't have any idea that it's happening. That for women, they have to watch pretty much everything they say. They feel like they have to watch pretty much everything they say. And any strong take, anything that seems like it's too loud, too strong, too emotional, they immediately have to weigh in their mind what is the ramification when somebody finds out I have strong opinions, I have strong feelings. And I'm like,
I noticed that he said, not in the clip, but in your interview, that you don't find many Black grandmas or grandpas, but especially grandmas, that will say that they don't believe in God. So I think that, times are a-changing and modernizing a little bit, but it's definitely a slow process.
That's right. And to remind everybody, the purpose of this show is to send you over to Church of Korihor to watch the full interview. But we have some more clips. Joe, do you have yours ready to key up, or do you want me to run one quick?
I've got one ready too.
I have that. I have the next one pulled up. That's just the 25 something. So let me see if I can just share that. Do you guys use the entire screen, or do you use just tab? The tab.
So Randy's been doing the screen, and I've been trying to go inside and make the full screen so that we can take a drink or pick our nose while the thing's playing.
Okay. But you don't share your entire screen. Or you do?
I share the entire screen. Well, I enlarge the YouTube screen so that it takes up the whole.
But because I'm vain and love to see myself, I keep the three of us on there.
Okay, I got you. Well, I'll just try sharing the tab here in the window, and we'll see if it works. How about that? So you guys see that okay?
Yeah, you should be able to share it up to our...
Okay.
Do you want me to add that on?
Do you see that?
Yeah.
You tell me when you're ready to play.
Okay.
Okay.
Where is this is what it... Okay, there's other things we have to remove, Randy. We have to remove the one that you had on. I can do it, and then we'll put on Joe's. Okay, we're learning here.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take it down?
So we are seeing it, Joe. You can play the
Oh,
sound?
you do? Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Here we go. And from watching your TikToks, because I was like blown away watching your TikToks. I'm like, see, because like I would listen to you talk about Jesus, maybe not even being real, but it's definitely not white, or it's definitely not this guy from Oxford, or and all this. And I'm like, listen, and then you would get like comments that you would respond to from people saying, you were a pastor, how could you do this to us, or whatever. And you're responding, you said something that was so familiar to me in my experience, but at the same time from a different place. Because you said something to the effect of, I'm going to butcher this, but you had said, I didn't come here and start this TikTok channel to convert Christians to atheism. Right. I came here to talk to atheists. If you're not liking our content, then that makes sense. And I'm like, that's me with the Church of Korihor. People ask me, aren't you supposed to be converting me from my religion? I'm like, I'm not out here to get you. I'm out here to find the atheists. Mm-hmm. I'm out here to help to create a spiritual journey for atheists and agnostics. And if you believe in God, you're not my target audience. I'm sorry.
I'm not talking to you. You know,
That's right.
if you want to go down to your church and still lift your hands and worship your God and run around your churches and believe in your Jesus and pray 3 times a week and give your tithe and offering, I'm not at, you will never see me standing in front of your church with a sign saying God's not real. You won't see me, not there. You'll never see me on someone else's Facebook post that said, God is the best thing ever. You'll never see my comment on there saying, no, he's not. See it, you know. But you will see me on my content talking about, you know, how I think this stuff is harmful, toxic, dehumanizing. It doesn't help people. It takes you away from everything you need: self-love, self-worth, self-appreciation, self-value. It takes you away from that. You have to start, and I know you know this, but you have to start with the basis of you're no good. You are no good. You are just rotten. You are deplorable. You're despicable. You're disgusting. And if it were not for God's little mercy, he would, you know, just destroy you in a half of a second. That's how disgusting you are to him. That's where you have to start. Now, you may not utter that, but ultimately, that's what coming to Jesus because you're a dirty sinner means. You're just a disgusting piece of nothing. And you have to embrace that daily in your Christian experience by saying, you must go away so that Jesus will come and increase. You got to go away. Joe, you don't matter. You came here. I know you, you know, you don't matter. You're insignificant.
Mhm.
And when I started thinking about it like that, I was like, well, why the hell are we here then? I mean, if this God just wanted little Jesuses all over the planet, why not just populate the earth with Jesuses?
So, yeah. I'm not sure if that's
Well-
the clip you had meant for me to play, but yes, that's. But I thought I loved that.
That was the clip that I had ready to play. I guess
Sorry, ruined
you're
it.
muted,
But
Gene.
it was
So you guys take your clips away from the bottom, and then I'll play something as a closing statement because we want to keep this a nice and tight show. Everybody go see the whole interview on Korihor, Church of Korihor on YouTube. And but that when I heard him say those things, it's just like the churches tell everybody you're broken and we are the only ones with a cure. And it's like everybody's worthy when they're born. They're not broken. They're human beings. They're whole, right? And it's the churches that have to, in order to get people paying tithing, in order to get people to attend all the time and read the scriptures all the time, they have to convince everybody that they're broken. They have to take a whole person, break them, and then uplift them with crutches or whatever. I don't know what it is, but there are some people that have lived their life without religion or with religion, and they have been broken, and the churches can bring them up from the gutter, right? But they usually trap them on that sidewalk, just walking around the same block over and over and over again after they get them out of the gutter. Without that, you're free to walk everywhere you want. You're free. And so that's part of what atheism is free from a belief in somebody else's belief in God. And so
and their need to sell you it by telling you that you're a piece of shit. And that's the thing is that's what I was surprised most about, because I want to know what I hadn't talked to Kyle about before. And he finished off that interview with, so I'll just tease it a little bit here. I asked him, like, what is it that motivates you now? Because he's not getting paid to do this. He's, that I know of. He's not affiliated with any organization. He's not part of the Church of Korihor. I'm like, he's got his own business and he just does this on the side. I'm like, what's this passion for you now? And what brings you spiritual rewards out of this experience now? And he says, I wish I could just make every single person understand that you are good, that you don't need this. And if you're going to heal, you need to internalize that you were born good. You're fine. There's nothing, this was somebody else's motive to get money, power, or sex or something out of you. That's the way I describe it. Those are not his words, but that's the way I'm like, that's something I really needed to hear.
I listened to a presentation on YouTube today. Leah Marie, she's got a hilarious. It wasn't on YouTube; it was on Instagram, and she was saying that when she finally was ready to go back and visit a church, she went to a church and she didn't know how to act because she wasn't told that God expects this or expects that, or that you're wrong for doing this and for doing that, and you have to do this and you have to pay that. All he told and all he taught was God loves you. God loves you. you
That's right.
you're
So I'll play this
perfect
last
just
clip.
like you are.
I'll play this last clip
And
now.
that's Joe praying, by the way.
Yep, caught me.
Yep.
There you go. Okay.
By the way, this is a different
you as an
shirt. It
atheist
didn't
have?
occur to me until now. It didn't occur to me until just now. This is my V-neck version of that shirt. Don't go thinking I wear the same shirt 2 days in a row. I'm not ready to admit that's true.
I think we were all thinking that, Joe.
I think so. Some spiritual practice is something that's significant for you.
If I do, I would call it the practice of me. Right. So I've always known myself to be a good person, kind, considerate, full of empathy and compassion, helpful. You know, now maybe everyone can't say that to the same degree, but what I believe about every single human being alive is that we're all made from the pure essence of love. That's what I deeply believe, that that's who we really are. Now, there's a whole bunch of shit that gets cluttered and gets in the way of us understanding that. And I think religion is one of those big prohibitors that gets in the way of us understanding that. Because again, when you tell a person they need a filter, they need a stand between, they need something else other than themselves, you devalue that person from the jump. And how can you, Joe, ever really understand the depths of your compassion and love and empathy and ability to be kind if you don't know it's in you already, and you got to keep believing this God or this Jesus to give it to you whenever you feel you don't feel it or something? Jesus, help me! I'm about to lose it. Jesus, you better come take the wheel and all that kind of stuff. Or is it just as simple as, Joe, come on, let's think this through a little bit. Let's look at this a little bit slower. Let's consider what this person may be going through, whatever the case might be. I'll give a moment of transparency here. When I first heard the news today, being a person that individual speaks very negatively about our community, there wasn't a first initial, I didn't know the details, but there wasn't a sense of, oh my gosh. Now when I heard the finality, there was that moment of, then you think from a human perspective, this should not happen to any human being.
Sure.
So that's my transparent moment. And the first initial was like, well, I mean, he out here saying all this stuff. I mean, but when I heard the finality of it, then the full humanness of it hits me. And I'm like, that shouldn't have happened. That.
Okay. So it was very
powerful.
Perfect to me.
I don't know if you guys felt that, but like for me, what we once called the spirit, I was listening to this atheist talk, and I felt it like that stronger. I told him after that, I said, I needed to hear that. Joe Rollins, needed to hear that right now. And since that conversation, I have, we published two hymns, which our hymns are very popular. Our most popular one right now from this week is Mammon Tabernacle Choir, because it's fun and riotous. But there's another one that I published just a few days ago that I've just been listening to every day, again and again. I think about and ever since this conversation with Kyle, it really drives it home to me with the Charlie Kirk thing, with me personally, with the Church of Korihor, with what we're doing. And we have this song that I wrote based on teaching of Korihors. Korihor said, it's Korihor in the Book of Mormon, who says, ye say that this people is a guilty and a fallen people because of the transgressions of a parent. Behold, I say that a child is not guilty because of a parent. And I think this is the wisdom of Korihor. Korihor, people say, oh, it's really funny that you named a church after Korihor. And I don't disagree. It is funny. But at the same time, Korihor is the wisest person in the Book of Mormon for me. I mean, far and away. And so I wrote a song called "A Child Is Not Guilty" and published it. And it's been, for me, one of I like it even more than Mammon Tabernacle Choir, even though Mammon Tabernacle Choir is good for dancing to. So, and it's
right.
It's a spiritual thing for me.
And to me, that's Joseph Smith trying to work out religion or no religion, and he lays it out perfectly why no religion is actually the best, the most moral way to go, but there's not very much money in it.
You've heard the Kobe Reddish theory, right? I've been telling everybody about this.
What's that?
Kobe Reddish said this to me, and I couldn't. I'm like, that is so humiliating that was you and not me that figured that out. But he said, Joseph Smith's father was confronted by his was it his uncle or his father with when he found out that he might become a Methodist, right? And he brought him a copy of Thomas Paine's The Age of Reason. And he says, Thomas Paine is Korihor. And I went, could have had a V8, man. Are you? Of course. Of course, that's why I'm like, all this time I thought he is Joseph Smith's superego. I even said that in the Korihor argument. Joseph Smith is no dummy. Obviously, he's not that dumb. Look at the incredible things he came up with in Korihor. And then now Kobe Reddish lands out on him. I'm like, oh, because it's Thomas Paine, who's infinitely more intelligent than Joseph Smith. So
I'm glad that you taught us that, because I never put those two together.
Yeah.
The Age of Reason. That's why I've decided now, as soon as we figure out how we're going to canonize our scriptures on the website, we're going to, I'm hoping before October, canonize the Age of Reason, because I do believe it. I believe that is a spiritual document. I think it's
maybe we can do a show with you on it, Joe.
That'd be great.
Well, and this is the age of Aquarius, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I can get the rights to that.
For some people, it's the age of aquarium if they win fish at a carnival. So anyway, thanks everybody for watching. The whole purpose of this show is to go watch the whole interview with Joe and his guest. Say his name again.
That's Kyle Butler, also known as @Kyle_talks on TikTok.
Yeah, and I have a link to the Korihor YouTube show, and I have a link to Kyle's TikTok in the description, and $1 to the first one that goes see it. That maybe Joe will pay someday if you go to Joe's house, and he'll be happy.
Yeah, you're not going to get $1 out of Gene. I'm telling you that right now.
No,
we've all been trying.
$1's worth of free advice, maybe, right?
You know how the Grand Canyon in Arizona was formed. Gene dropped a dime down a gopher hole.
That's right. Little known fact. All right, thanks everybody for watching. Go watch Joe's channel and have a great rest of 2025, and think about the things that we talked about.